I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves as I faced the ungrateful stares of my son Jeff and his wife Emily. The air was thick with tension, and the words they had just uttered felt like a slap across my face. "Jeff, Emily, I never thought you'd treat me like this over a loan. I gave you $50,000 for my granddaughter's education, not for you to throw it away," I exclaimed, my voice trembling with disappointment and disbelief. Jeff scoffed, his arms folded defiantly across his chest. "We don't need to explain ourselves to you, Mom. We're cutting ties, and don't expect any help from us when you're old." Emily nodded in agreement, her lips curled into a smug smile that sent shivers down my spine. "That's right, Helen. We're done playing this charade of a happy family." I felt my heart sink as their words sank in. After all the sacrifices I had made for them, this was how they chose to repay me? Anger bubbled up inside me, but I tried to remain calm. "Gladly, don't come crying to me when you realize your mistake." With those parting words, I turned and walked away, my steps heavy with the weight of their betrayal. As I made my way home, memories of our once happy family flooded my mind, and I couldn't help but wonder where it all went wrong. I had always been a devoted mother, putting my son's needs before my own. After a successful career as a nurse, I had retired with a comfortable nest egg, which I was more than willing to share with Jeff and his family. But little did I know that my generosity would be met with such blatant disrespect and manipulation. As I settled into my chair, I thought back to the days when Jeff was just a young boy, full of dreams and ambition. I had worked tirelessly to provide him with the best education, instilling in him the values of hard work and integrity. And when he met Emily, a charismatic woman from an affluent family, I had welcomed her with open arms, never suspecting the depths of her deceit. As I sat in the dimly lit living room, my mind wandered back to the days when Frank and I were just starting our lives together. Those were simpler times, filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a bright future. Frank was the love of my life, a kind and gentle soul who had stolen my heart from the moment we met. We had met during my nursing training, and his warm smile and unwavering support had been my rock through the most challenging times. I reminisced about our wedding day, the way his eyes had sparkled with joy as we exchanged our vows, promising to love and cherish each other until death did us part. Little did we know then that our love would be tested in ways we could never have imagined. As the years passed, our love only grew stronger. We welcomed our son Jeff into the world, and from the moment I held him in my arms, I knew that my life had taken on a new meaning. Frank and I poured every ounce of our love and energy into raising Jeff, ensuring that he had every opportunity to thrive. And thrive he did. Jeff was a bright child, excelling in his studies and showing a keen intellect that filled us with pride. We supported his dreams, encouraging him to pursue his passions and never lose sight of his ambitions. When Jeff graduated from college with top honors, we couldn't have been more proud. He had landed a coveted job at a prestigious firm, and we believed that his future was secure. It was around this time that he met Emily, a woman who seemed to have it all: beauty, charm, and a wealthy family background. At first, Emily appeared kind and sincere, expressing a genuine interest in our family and our values. She would shower us with affection, referring to us as her second parents, and promising to cherish the bond we shared. Little did we know that her true intentions were far more sinister. As the years went by, we began to notice subtle changes in Jeff and Emily's behavior. Their visits became more frequent, but instead of the warm embraces we were accustomed to, they were often accompanied by requests for financial assistance. "Mom, Dad, you know how much we love you," Emily would say, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We could really use some help with the mortgage this month. Just a small loan, and we'll pay you back as soon as we can." Blinded by our love and desire to support our son, we obliged time and time again. We dipped into our savings, convinced that we were helping them through a rough patch, never realizing that we were being manipulated by masters of deceit. As the years wore on, the requests became more frequent, and the amounts grew larger. We found ourselves stretching our resources thin, sacrificing our own comforts to ensure that Jeff and Emily had everything they desired. But the more we gave, the more they demanded, and the more distant they became. It was as if our love and generosity were being exploited, twisted into a sick game of manipulation and betrayal. Little did we know that the true extent of their deception was yet to be revealed, and the consequences would shake the very foundations of our family. As the years passed, the cracks in Jeff and Emily's facade became increasingly difficult to ignore. What had once been a loving, supportive relationship had devolved into a twisted game of manipulation and deceit. Their visits to our home became more frequent, each one accompanied by a new request for financial assistance. "Mom, Dad, we're so grateful for everything you've done for us," Emily would croon, her saccharine tone masking the underlying manipulation. At first, we were happy to help, believing that they were simply going through a rough patch. We dipped into our savings, convinced that our sacrifices were an investment in our family's future. But as time went on, the requests grew larger and our resources dwindled. "Jeff, Emily, we've given you everything we can," I finally mustered the courage to say one day. "We're struggling to make ends meet ourselves." Jeff's expression hardened, his eyes narrowing as he regarded me with disdain. "What do you mean you can't help us? You're our parents. It's your duty to support us." Emily nodded in agreement, her perfectly manicured nails tapping impatiently on the armrest of the chair. "Really, Helen, after everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" Their words stung, piercing my heart like 1,000 needles. I wanted to believe that they truly cared for us, that their love and gratitude were genuine. But as the months wore on, their true colors began to show. Frank and I found ourselves sacrificing our own comforts to appease their endless demands. We skipped vacations, delayed home repairs, and even went without essentials, all in the hopes of maintaining peace and keeping our family together. But no matter how much we gave, it was never enough. "Mom, we're barely scraping by," Jeff would lament, his voice dripping with false despair. "I don't know how we're going to make it through this month." Yet, their lavish lifestyle told a different story. They flaunted designer clothing, expensive cars, and extravagant vacations, all while claiming financial hardship. It was a never-ending cycle of manipulation and emotional blackmail, and I found myself trapped, unable to escape the suffocating grip of their greed. One day, as I struggled to pay my utility bills, I made the decision to confront Jeff about the discrepancy between their claims of financial woes and their opulent lifestyle. "Jeff, I need your help," I pleaded, my voice trembling with desperation. "I can't afford to pay my bills this month." He regarded me with a cold, dismissive stare, his lips curling into a sneer. "You're asking me for money? Mom, Emily and I are barely making ends meet as it is. We can't afford to support you, too." His words hit me like a physical blow, leaving me reeling in disbelief. How could the son I had raised, the child I had loved and nurtured, be so callous and cruel? It was in that moment that the scales fell from my eyes, and I saw Jeff and Emily for who they truly were. Manipulative, selfish individuals who cared only for their own gain. As I watched them drive away in their luxury sedan, my heart heavy with the weight of their betrayal, I knew that something had to be done. I could no longer allow them to take advantage of my love and generosity. It was time to take a stand, to expose their lies and hold them accountable for their actions. And as I formulated my plan, a newfound sense of determination began to take root within me. They had underestimated me, thinking that I was nothing more than a feeble old woman to be exploited and discarded. But they were in for a rude awakening, for I was not one to be trifled with. The stage was set for a final showdown, and I intended to emerge victorious, no matter the cost. The manipulation and deceit only intensified with the arrival of Emily's pregnancy. I had been overjoyed at the prospect of becoming a grandmother, eager to shower my grandchild with love and affection. "Mom, we're going to need your help more than ever," Emily had cooed, her eyes glistening with false sincerity. "You know how much it means to us to have your support." Foolishly, I fell for her act, offering to assist with baby supplies and childcare, convinced that my sacrifices were an investment in our family's future. Little did I know that my generosity would be exploited to the fullest extent as Emily and Jeff embarked on a relentless campaign of emotional and financial manipulation. "Grandma, we're so grateful for everything you do," Emily would croon, while simultaneously handing me a list of expensive baby items to purchase. I found myself drowning in a sea of pacifiers, formula, and designer onesies, my savings dwindling with each passing day. But the true depths of their selfishness became apparent when our precious granddaughter, Lily, arrived. Emily insisted that I take on the role of full-time babysitter, claiming that they couldn't afford the exorbitant costs of daycare. "It's only temporary, Mom," Jeff would assure me, his words dripping with false promises. "Once we get back on our feet, we'll take care of everything." Yet, as the months turned into years, my responsibilities only grew. I found myself consumed by a never-ending cycle of diaper changes, feedings, and playtime, all while Emily and Jeff pursued their lavish lifestyle, seemingly oblivious to my sacrifices. "We're just so blessed to have you, Helen," Emily would gush, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against her designer handbag. "We don't know what we'd do without you." Their words were like poison, seeping into my heart and clouding my judgment. I convinced myself that my role was essential, that my presence was a vital component in Lily's upbringing. But as the years passed, the truth became increasingly difficult to ignore. Emily and Jeff's behavior grew more callous, their disregard for my well-being more apparent with each passing day. "Mom, can you watch Lily this weekend?" Jeff would demand, without so much as a hint of gratitude. "Emily and I have plans." And so I would dutifully comply, sacrificing my own social engagements and personal time to cater to their whims. It was a twisted dance of manipulation, with Emily and Jeff leading the steps and me following obediently, blinded by the love I held for my family. Yet beneath the surface, a simmering resentment began to take root. I found myself questioning their motives, their actions, and the very foundation upon which our relationship was built. But it wasn't until Lily, now a perceptive young girl of 15, confided in me that the true extent of their betrayal was revealed. "Grandma," she whispered, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I overheard Mom and Dad talking. They've been getting money from Grandpa and Grandma Price, too, for my school fees." The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks, shattering the carefully constructed facade of lies and deceit that Jeff and Emily had so skillfully crafted. Suddenly, everything made sense. The lavish lifestyle, the constant demands for financial assistance, the dismissive attitude towards my own struggles. They had been playing me like a fiddle, manipulating my love and devotion for their own selfish gain, all while accepting handouts from Emily's wealthy parents. As the pieces fell into place, a newfound determination took hold. I would no longer be a pawn in their twisted game. It was time to confront them, to expose their lies, and hold them accountable for their actions. And this time, there would be no room for forgiveness or compromise. They had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. Lily's revelation was the catalyst that set my plan in motion. For years, I had been blinded by love and loyalty, allowing myself to be manipulated and taken advantage of by my own flesh and blood. But no more. As I sat across from Lily, her innocent eyes brimming with tears, I knew that the time for action had come. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I said, reaching out to squeeze her hand. "I'm going to handle this." Over the next few days, I meticulously gathered evidence of Jeff and Emily's deception. Bank statements, receipts, and even overheard conversations. I left no stone unturned in my quest to expose their lies. Armed with an arsenal of proof, I summoned the courage to confront them head-on. "Jeff, Emily," I began, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and determination, "I know everything." Their reactions were a study in contrasts. Jeff's face paled, his eyes widening with a flicker of fear, while Emily simply arched a perfectly groomed eyebrow, her expression one of cool indifference. "What are you talking about, Mom?" Jeff stammered, his attempt at nonchalance failing miserably. "Don't play dumb with me," I snapped, my patience wearing thin. "I know about the money you've been taking from Emily's parents. I know about your job at her family's company, and I know that you've been lying to me all this time about your financial situation." Emily let out a derisive laugh, her perfectly painted lips curling into a sneer. "So what if we did? It's none of your business how we manage our finances." "None of my business," I echoed, my voice rising in disbelief. "What about the $50,000 I gave you for Lily's education? What did you do with that money?" Jeff shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes darting around the room, searching for an escape. We needed it for other expenses, but we had every intention of paying you back." Lies, I spat, slamming my fist on the table, causing them both to flinch. You've been taking advantage of me from the start, using me for my money, my time, my love, all while living the high life behind my back. Emily's eyes narrowed, her veneer of composure cracking. You're just a bitter old woman who can't accept that her son has moved on with his life. We don't owe you anything. Her words stung, but I refused to back down. You're right, Emily, I said, my voice low and steady. You don't owe me anything, because as of this moment, we're done. Our relationship is over. Jeff's face contorted in a mixture of shock and anger. You can't be serious, Mom. We're family. Family? I scoffed. You've made it abundantly clear that you don't care about family. All you care about is money and status. Well, I'm not going to be a part of your charade anymore. With a heavy heart, I laid out the ultimatum. Either you come clean and make amends, or I'm cutting you off. No more money, no more favors, no more anything. And if you think you can manipulate your way back into my life, think again. The silence that followed was deafening, punctuated only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. Jeff and Emily exchanged a quick glance, a silent communication passing between them. Finally, Emily spoke, her voice dripping with contempt. Fine. Have it your way, Helen. We never needed you anyway. And with that, they turned and walked out of my life, leaving a trail of broken promises and shattered trust in their wake. As the door slammed shut behind them, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. The weight of their betrayal had been lifted, and for the first time in years I was free from their manipulative grip. But my journey was far from over. There was still one more piece of the puzzle to put into place, one final act of defiance that would ensure my revenge was complete. As I dialed the number of my lawyer, a small smile tugged at the corners of my lips. Jeff and Emily thought they had won, but they had no idea what was coming their way. The days following my confrontation with Jeff and Emily were a whirlwind of emotions. I had finally found the strength to stand up to their manipulation, but the weight of their betrayal still hung heavy on my heart. As I sat in the quiet of my living room, surrounded by memories of happier times, a newfound determination took root within me. I would not allow their greed and selfishness to define my life. It was time to take back control and chart a new course, one that would bring justice and healing to our fractured family. The first step was to gather my allies. I reached out to my granddaughter, Lily, the one person who had stood by me through it all. Her eyes shone with admiration and respect as I laid out my plan. "Grandma, I'm with you all the way," she said, her voice resolute. "Mom and Dad have gone too far this time." With Lily's unwavering support, I felt emboldened to take the next step. I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer, a formidable woman named Claire, and presented her with the evidence I had collected over the years. "This is a clear case of financial exploitation and emotional abuse," Claire stated, her brow furrowed as she pored over the documents. "We have more than enough grounds to pursue legal action." The thought of taking my own son to court weighed heavily on my mind, but I knew it was the only way to hold him and Emily accountable for their actions. They had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. A few days later, I summoned Jeff and Emily to my home, this time with Claire by my side. As they entered the room, their expressions ranged from confusion to outright defiance. "What's going on, Mom?" Jeff demanded, his eyes narrowing as he took in the presence of my lawyer. "Lily told me everything," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. "You've been taking money from Emily's parents, too, and lying to me. What did you do with my $50,000? Emily's eyes flashed with fury, her perfectly painted lips curling into a sneer. "It's none of your business how we use our funds. Your loan? It's gone. Accept it." I could feel the anger bubbling within me, but I refused to be baited. "You're right, it's over," I said, locking eyes with my son. "We're done here, but there's just one last thing." With a deep breath, I uttered the words I never thought I'd say. "I'm disowning you, Jeff, and I'm adopting Lily." The room erupted in chaos, with Jeff shouting and Emily hurling insults left and right. But through it all, I remained resolute, my mind focused on the future, a future without their toxicity and betrayal. As the dust settled, I turned to Lily, her eyes shining with a mixture of disbelief and hope. "I'm staying with Grandma," she declared, her voice unwavering. "You and Dad never cared about my interests, only what makes you look good." Jeff's face contorted with rage, his hands balling into fists at his sides. "You have no idea what you're doing, Lily," he spat, his words laced with venom. But Lily stood her ground, her chin raised defiantly. "She knows exactly what she's doing," I interjected, placing a protective arm around my granddaughter's shoulders. "We're going to court to make it official." The look of pure hatred that flashed across Emily's face would haunt me for years to come. But in that moment, I knew I had made the right choice. I was taking back control of my life, my family, and my future. With Claire's guidance, we set the wheels in motion, forcing Jeff and Emily to sign legal documents disowning any rights to my estate and consenting to Lily's temporary guardianship under my care. As they stormed out of my home, their protests echoing in the night, I felt a weight lifted from my shoulders. The road ahead would be difficult, but I was no longer alone. Lily and I were a united front, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. And as for Jeff and Emily, they had made their choices, and now it was time to face the consequences. The days following my confrontation with Jeff and Emily were a whirlwind. With Lily by my side, I felt empowered to take the next steps in securing our future together, one free from their toxic influence. Claire, my steadfast lawyer, had been working tirelessly to ensure that every legal avenue was explored. "We need to make this official," she advised, her eyes reflecting a steely determination. "We can't leave any room for loopholes or challenges down the line." And so, with a heavy heart, I found myself once again in the presence of my estranged son and his wife. This time, however, the playing field was level, and I held all the cards. "What do you want now, Mom?" Jeff spat, his eyes narrowed with barely concealed contempt. I took a deep breath, steadying my nerves before speaking. "We're here to finalize the disownment process," I stated, my voice leaving no room for negotiation. Emily scoffed, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the table. "You can't be serious? You're really going through with this charade?" "It's no charade," Claire interjected, her tone firm and unyielding. "Your mother has every legal right to disown you, Jeff, and to pursue guardianship of your daughter." Lily, who had been sitting silently by my side, finally spoke up. "I'm staying with Grandma," she declared, her eyes shining with a resolve far beyond her years. "You and Dad never cared about my interests, only what makes you look good." Jeff's face contorted with rage, his fists clenching at his sides. "You have no idea what you're doing, Lily," he shouted, his voice echoing through the room. But Lily remained steadfast, her chin raised in defiance. "She knows exactly what she's doing," I said, placing a protective arm around her shoulders. "We're going to court to make it official." The legal documents were laid out before us, each page a testament to the fractured state of our once loving family. Jeff and Emily were forced to sign away their rights to my estate, their claim to Lily's future, and any lingering threads of control they thought they still possessed. As they scrawled their signatures, their movements jerky and filled with barely contained fury, I felt a sense of finality wash over me. This was the end of an era, the closing of a chapter that had been marred by deceit and betrayal. "This isn't over," Emily hissed, her eyes shooting daggers in my direction. "You'll regret this, Helen. Mark my words." But her threats fell on deaf ears. I had already endured the worst. The crushing realization that my own flesh and blood had exploited me for their own gain, trampling on the bonds of family and love. As they stormed out, their footsteps echoing like thunderclaps, I turned to Lily, her eyes shining with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "It's going to be okay, sweetheart," I said, pulling her into a tight embrace. "We're going to get through this together." And in that moment, I knew that my words were true. With Lily by my side, a newfound strength had taken root within me, a strength born from the ashes of betrayal, tempered by the fires of hard-won wisdom. As we walked out of that room, hand in hand, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be long and arduous, but for the first time in years I was free. Free from the shackles of manipulation, free from the burden of misplaced loyalty. And as I looked into Lily's eyes, I saw a future filled with promise, a future where love and truth would triumph over greed and deceit. It was a future worth fighting for, and I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, head-on and without fear. For in the end, justice would prevail, not just for me, but for every person who had ever been wronged by those they trusted most. It was a lesson hard learned, but one that would shape the rest of my life and the lives of those I loved. The battle was far from over, but the first skirmish had been won. And as I looked ahead, I knew that no matter what obstacles arose, I would face them with the same determination and resilience that had carried me this far. Because in the end, revenge was not about inflicting harm or seeking retribution. It was about reclaiming what had been stolen: my dignity, my self-worth, and my right to live a life free from the shackles of manipulation and lies. And with that newfound strength, I knew that nothing could stand in my way. In the weeks that followed, the shockwaves of my actions rippled through our lives, causing unexpected consequences that even I couldn't have foreseen. It started with a frantic phone call from Emily's parents, their voices laced with confusion and anger. "Helen, what's going on? Jeff and Emily are telling us some outrageous story about you disowning them and taking custody of Lily." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. "It's true," I replied, my voice unwavering. "I can no longer enable their manipulative and deceitful behavior." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line, followed by a torrent of questions and accusations. But I stood firm, calmly explaining the years of financial exploitation and emotional abuse that had led me to this decision. As the truth unraveled, Emily's parents found themselves confronting a reality they had been blind to for far too long. Their precious daughter, the one they had doted on and showered with every privilege, was not the innocent victim she claimed to be. The fallout was swift and decisive. In a stunning turn of events, Emily's parents cut off all financial support, reclaiming the lavish home and assets they had bestowed upon their daughter and her husband. Suddenly, the tables had turned, and Jeff and Emily found themselves in the same precarious position they had so often claimed to be in. Struggling to make ends meet, their facade of wealth and status crumbling around them. But the consequences didn't end there. With the evidence I had provided, Jeff's position at Emily's family's company became increasingly tenuous. Whispers of his deceit and manipulation spread like wildfire, and before long he found himself demoted, his once promising career in shambles. As Lily and I watched from the sidelines, a strange sense of satisfaction washed over me. It wasn't joy at their misfortune, but rather a quiet vindication, a testament to the power of truth and the consequences of greed. "Grandma, are you sure this was the right thing to do?" Lily asked one evening, her brow furrowed with concern. I pulled her close, offering a reassuring embrace. "Sometimes, sweetheart, the hardest decisions are the ones that need to be made. Your parents made their choices, and now they have to live with the consequences." And live with them they did. As the months passed, Jeff and Emily's once lavish lifestyle became a distant memory, replaced by the harsh realities of financial strain and societal ostracization. But through it all, Lily and I remained steadfast, our bond strengthened by the trials we had endured together. We focused on building a new life, one founded on love, honesty, and a deep appreciation for the true meaning of family. With the support of my dear Frank, we showered Lily with the attention and guidance she had so desperately craved, nurturing her talents and ambitions without the weight of manipulation or false promises. As I watched her blossom into a confident, compassionate young woman, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This was the true meaning of legacy, the passing of wisdom and strength from one generation to the next. And in those quiet moments, when the weight of the past threatened to overwhelm me, I would remind myself of the hard-won lessons I had learned. Trust must be earned, not blindly given. Loyalty is a two-way street, and those who exploit it forfeit their place in our lives. Most importantly, I learned that revenge is not about inflicting pain or seeking retribution. It is about reclaiming one's dignity, about standing up for what is right, even in the face of opposition from those we once held dear. As for Jeff and Emily, their paths diverged from ours, their lives a constant reminder of the consequences of their actions. But I harbored no ill will toward them, for they had taught me a valuable lesson, one that would guide me through the remainder of my days. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all, to move forward unburdened by the weight of their betrayal, and to live a life filled with love, laughter, and the knowledge that justice had prevailed. For in the aftermath of their deceit, a new family had been forged, one built on the foundations of truth, resilience, and an unbreakable bond that could never be shaken.